Have been a Week 13 tradition. Drivers from across the Spec Racer Ford community and the Weekend Warriors have flocked to this event in the past to showcase that they could be the best of the best, all while having fun. This time, though, the event this time comes with a twist. For the first time in its history, Formula Vs get to join the party, as this is the 31st running of the V Runoffs, hosted by Ray Esports Racing and the Formula V Weekend Warriors, live on the Global SimRacing Channel. My name is Justin Prince. Alongside the booth today is DMI Jake Sperry. Behind the scenes is our director Robert O'Brien, and he's using cameras provided by the great Dougie Beard. Now, this running of the V Runoffs takes us to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. This circuit features a mixture of fast and slow corners with several elevation changes. Let's learn more about this track with our GSRC track guide.
Welcome to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Located halfway between Columbus and Cleveland, Ohio, this track has become a road racing staple in the Midwest. Despite its name, one of the biggest events of the year here is usually the visit from IndyCar. The full 2¼ mile version is what is most frequently used, but it also includes a chicane layout and a short course. While each one officially has 13 turns, they do have distinct differences. The chicane layout was the only version for the first part of its history, in which the keyhole included a bus stop style back and forth jink on its entry. The short course simply bypasses the whole keyhole section altogether. The various turns have some rather famous names, such as China Beach with its downhill braking, inviting you into its eponymous sand trap, or Madness, which is a single file set of S's with drastic elevation change. There's also the Carousel, and this more than 180-degree turn offers a variety of lines that can be taken. Perhaps the most unique feature of the track is that in the real world, starts are rarely taken on the pit straight. Instead, the green flag is given along the backstretch where an extra flag stand sits. Naturally, sports car racing is the main staple of the venue, but motorcycles have a long history here, and in more recent times, NASCAR has started to hold races at the track. It also hosts driving schools and days for amateur racers to get on the circuit. The Buckeye State is often more closely associated with dirt track ovals, but the amount of history and prestige in Mid-Ohio's events make it just as worthy of notoriety in the region.
That was a look at our GSRC track guide for Mid-Ohio. Now, Jake, today brings two different kinds of cars to the racetrack today for the first time in this event's history. How do you feel they will race here at Mid-Ohio, especially knowing for the Formula Vs, there's a slight twist. They will use the chicane before the keyhole for Formula Vs, but not for the Spec Racer Fords.
This is a technical track here, Justin, and it's very understanding that Lexington, Ohio has been a staple of the American sports car scene, and it proves so once again here today. This is a track where you need a lot of control through the middle section from China Beach all the way to Thunder Valley, and that run through the Carousel, very similar to the final run, of course, at Barber Motorsports Park. But that run to the keyhole is going to be key. It does slightly take away the overtaking opportunity here in the opening race in the Formula Vs, going and making that run towards that keyhole. But the big key, I think, that we're going to be looking at here is how they go and attack coming out of that keyhole and that long run all the way down to China Beach at turn 4.
Very curious to see how both of these races play out. Let's talk about how they will be formatted for today's action as well here for the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. As mentioned, drivers will have 2 races today. Each will see separate formations in terms of sessions, in terms of times of races total as well. For the Formula Vs, I should say, it is 4 qualifying laps solo. They have 10 minutes to do so, but it's 30 minutes for those drivers for the Formula Vs. It is open setups as well for this event, for this running, so drivers do have the ability to bring their own setups here for the opening card race for the V Runoffs. Drivers are currently in the final few minutes of practice at the moment, it is worth noting, where currently the in-sim time is nearly 11 a.m. I should say, already, with it being fairly cool, with it being the in-sim date of October 31st, 2021, Jake.
Absolutely, and this is where we're starting to see how drivers understand this track. It's a relatively cold circuit out there at the moment, and they'll be dealing with that blustering wind that's coming in. It's, I would say, a medium to strong out there at this point in time. So these very light Formula Vs could really struggle in certain areas of the circuit. So they have that to keep in mind. And it might be worth just trying to tuck in under during the race here today, setting up the runs into the right places, giving yourself realms of abilities to attack. These cars are very much craft dependent. So if you know where to place the car at the right time, got a real opportunity here today to gain a couple places where other drivers who are being more aggressive out there on track potentially do not.
So as these drivers continue to practice the belt, keep in mind when it comes to the iRacing build that was released earlier this week, the Formula V did not have any changes to it in either the main build or the hotfix that took place a few days ago. The Spec Racer 4 did have a few adjustments, slight adjustments. We'll get to that when those drivers get to the racetrack for their side of the event today. But if these drivers continue to practice the belt, plenty of talents in the field for today. The drivers included in today's action, how about the Weekend Warriors Formula V champion for this last season, the 308, that's Simon Mayer, who is in the field today, 142.558 in practice, currently inside the top 10. He's 9th quickest, but the quickest overall, Jake, is the driver who finished runner-up to him in the championship this time around, Florence Arabian, 141.828 in final practice.
Absolutely, and 2/10 clear of the field. It's, of course, only practice at this point in time. It's not necessarily the end of the world if you don't have the best time in practice. It's just how much you're willing to show out there on circuit. But the key is going to be when you translate that to qualifying, which will be a 10-minute 4-lap affair where drivers are going to be trying to put that best possible time on the board. You know you want to be out of trouble early in a strong field like it is today. The last place you want to be really is the mid-pack, where it gets very, very dicey and you have a huge opportunity in what effectively looks like a couple of pencils driving about on circuit here. Chance to not end up out on track, leaving yourself needing the front nose to be sharpened.
I can't tell if you're trying to take a hint towards that colored pencil Formula V set, which came out when this car came to the iRacing service or not. There is, keep in mind, one driver who will be running a paint scheme dressed as a B today. The bad news is the 700, Alexander Roggenbuck, who has that scheme, is dead last in the practice at 144.418. There is that sting like a bee machine, as these drivers will take the checker flag to practice here and start qualifying in just a couple moments here at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course here in Lexington, Ohio. Now, as these drivers begin their qualifying session, Jake, let's talk about how these drivers could get the most speed possible for qualifying. How do you feel drivers will need to make sure they get the fuel measures right, their setups right, as well as attack the track right to get the best lap here?
Well, the key here is getting the tyres up to temperature. It is going to take a couple laps to get fully into an operating window, so it might just be that you use that opening lap or two as a sighter. You can see there on that front left tyre as one of the drivers here sits and waits in the pits. You've got that groove in the middle here on Scott Brayler here, and you've got those small bits of tread on the outside. It's a very weird design of tyre, how you've got not much in terms of the inside, but a lot more on the outside. So expect to see maybe how much you use that to a strong advantage. But the key is going to be getting that grip down on track, making sure that you are carrying that momentum through the corners. And really, this middle sector is make or break. You can lose time very quickly by not getting a good keyhole run. But if you get one corner wrong, China Beach all the way to Thunder Valley, you're dropping tenths. You're dropping more than tenths. You could drop easily half a second to a second.
Very, very difficult to get those times absolutely around this circuit, as Ian Gibson we're now on board with in the 893 machine. When it comes to Gibson, showed some flashes of speed throughout his time in Weekend Warriors competition. He was in the midst of the pack in terms of practice, around the top 15 or so. Here's the run up from Gibson, in fact. Leading things off right now in his warm-up qualifying run. You see just how much speed is carried. A blistering 100 miles per hour for the run to China Beach.
Yeah, and Ian Gibson here is going to need to spot his braking point and has to spot it early moving into this section. It's very deceptive up here because you've got this roller coaster at madness, up and then back down the hill. Car wants to spin you off towards that inside, and then it's the next right that comes into play. This section is also quite interesting because it is flat up over the crest. You've got to try and spot your point, which is to hit that curve there on the inside, then lisk into the brakes for the right and into Thunder Valley. And this effectively lines up the last section of the track, the right, the left, and then the long carousel, which pretty much ends the circuit.
I was talking a little bit with one of the drivers today in the field, Jake, and he's a well-regarded racer and coach when it comes to the racing world, Michael W. Johnson. Yes, the co-announcer as well for the Big C's MX5 Challenge coming up after this action as well. He's in the field today, Jake, and he's got a lot of experience when it comes to racing at multiple tracks across North America. Curious on how the number 9 car does as well. He mentioned to me, though, that most of the corners, there's no brakes being used in these Formula Vs today. A lot of it is just lift and coast, light brake into China Beach.
Yeah, this is one of the things here with a car like this. It's momentum based. We can see Johnson taking a whole heap of curb, going through madness and down the hill into the next right. The key is momentum and conserving as much as you can. Every time you hit the brakes and dabble on the brakes in a light car like this and a low-powered machine like this, you're effectively putting yourself in a situation where you're using a lot of energy and a lot of fuel to get back that speed, which has been scrubbed off and lost every time that you go around this track. And especially with the elevation changes, which are exacerbated in a slower car like this, you really want to be trying to carry as much as you can, not hitting that brake, relying on a lift and coast, which gives you more options and opportunities to effectively sail further into the corner. And that's what we're seeing with Michael Johnson's lap.
With this being a race for bragging rights, but also fun today, Michael Johnson is actually standing by, and how about we get his take on how the car is running right now? He is currently connected to us through the broadcast booth during this run. Michael, you're on your second lap. How's the track feel?
Let's just call it slippery. It's a little colder than I was expecting, and not quite as rubbered in as I was hoping. During the practice, a lot of people out there, a lot of people putting down rubber, and well, you had a little bit of draft here and there, made it easier. But right now, this is like driving on ice at the moment. I'm hoping to get a little more heat in these tires and see how my next couple of laps go.
You mentioned that tire heat. What have been some of the adjustments you've been making to the car itself to make sure you capitalize on that and max in on that throughout the rest of this run here, especially knowing the critical portions of this lap, but also the next one?
Well, one of the things I did was try to get as much toe as I could without destroying my speed down the straight into China Beach. I wanted to get some toe to get heat in quickly for my setup for the qualifying, but it's not coming in as quickly as I had hoped it would. But you know, it's kind of hit or miss from time to time. The car feels pretty good in general. I'm not having the rear end slide around like I was earlier on. It's not trying to swap ends on me. So it may just be normal qualifying jitters telling me that the car is worse than it is.
Well, look on the bright side. Currently, you're now 13th on the board coming to the end of this second lap. Let you get back to focusing to this lap as you come across the stripe. Good luck the rest of the run, Michael.
Thanks.
Michael Johnson currently in the midst of qualifying, just ran a 1:43.608 for the second time around. Slower than his first lap, in fact. The quickest driver on the board. Should be no shock right now, Jake, based on his experience. Arabian, top of the board right now, a 1:42.454. He's now on his third lap.
He certainly is, and that 1:42.4 is a real gauntlet setter. If you can go quicker than him, you've got a really good opportunity here today. Brian Farnham going up then second fastest, and this is the key here with how Arabian is trying to make this track work. He's trying to put as little steering input in as possible through these corners. You can keep that car as straight as possible, not have to deal with any sliding out of the rear tires, for example, not having to deal with any corrections of oversteer, and putting the power down at the right times as well, not having to deal with any understeer to correct out there on track. Then he is going to be very well placed in what is an incredible position. In 100 miles an hour, he's going to be hitting the brakes here, moving into the right at China Beach. And the key here is just precision. This is a precision-based car. You've got to make sure that you are putting every single corner into being as precise. And look at the way that he tries to open up every single stage of the corner. A lot of people who are getting into iRacing take that section flat and effectively drive it as straight as they possibly can. He's using all of the road used all of the road coming through Madness, then brought it all the way to the left-hand side to open up that right and gain about half a second.
Arabian looking at strong form right now. Farnham, as mentioned, in second in qualifying. Mayer, Daniel Sadro with his sad emoji-covered race cars in fourth. Nilsenkowski rounds out the top five. He's just bumped out, keep in mind, though, by Thor Tulo. This time around, Arabian third time in qualifying. Blinks across the line, but it does count with a 142.377. Now here's a look at the 39 machine, and he's been around the block for a long time on the service. He likes to have fun in this car, to the point where he's having a face car today on the front of that machine. Long-time veteran when it comes to iRacing, road course racing, coming in with a 7,000 I rating, as there's the face.
There it is, Nilsenkowski, driver for Global SimRacing. Quite often, always a delight to see him out there and putting in the effort, and effectively one of these drivers who can turn up in pretty much any vehicle you want, and he'll be up there quick, and he'll be challenging some of the quick drivers out there, and a 42.833 will certainly help as he goes fourth fastest with that time. And really, you're looking at a driver who effectively you don't know what he's going to bring to the table when he turns up. He's got that ability that a lot of great drivers have to just, put together a fantastic run to put the time that's needed. But he does have himself one issue out there in terms of his qualifying right now, Justin, and that's the fact that he'd have a minute 20 on the clock and not necessarily enough time to go out there and complete that final lap of qualifying, which is so vital right now.
So his qualifying likely done, as he also picked up several off tracks we just seen there. Arabian, though, he has the chance to finish up his run right here. 3/10 over the field right now is the pole time. Mayer is up to second. Farham's been shuffled back to third. Tkowski back to fourth. Tool is now in fifth as he's finished up his run after only 3 laps. Arabian to close out the run for qualifying for the V Runoffs. A 142.450, not quick enough to bump off his top time. The third time around was his quickest. Here's a look now at the 998 machine. Also looking quick was this driver throughout the practices, as he nearly picks up a 1x, possibly there with the carousel. 142.954, the quickest time for Caleb Petrie in qualifying. Now up to a 143.7 to close things out. Couple moments before we get towards the starting grid. Quick thoughts, Jake, before we look at how these drivers will line up today.
The key's going to be get a good start and don't let go of the draft here today. That run into China Beach will be crucial. And on top of that, if you start getting splits, you start fighting a little bit too wide and trying to push that initiative, you can so easily lose the train today.
Drivers will now take their drivers and cars over towards the starting grid. It's time to take a look at how the first part of the V Runoffs, the 31st running, will line up. Lawrence Arabian starts the poll today with Simon Mayer in second, Brian Barnham in third. Nilsenkowski is in fourth position. Then it's Thor Tool who starts fifth. Leroy Coppage looks to try and bunch his way up on forward from half a second back of the poll time from sixth. Daniel Sadro has a sad emoji on his car today in seventh, with Caleb Petrie in eighth. Jason Green starts in ninth, with Paolo Gori rounding out the top 10 today, Jake.
35-car field today with Luca Leone in 11th and Ian Gibson in 12th position. Marco Trespidi is 13th, along with Michael Johnson in 14th position, who, of course, we had earlier on in the booth with us. Kenneth Batley goes from 15th alongside Bobby West in 16th, following Stevie Ray and Jim Brewster on row number 9. Row 10 will have Mihail Vucinic and Nico Shuk making up the 20.
21st spot today goes to Chris Montgomery with Johan Patenka in 22nd. Luis Aboni starts 23rd. Powell Brem 24th. Already heating up his tires on the 505 with Vince Ball 25th. Andrew Burr is in 26th with Jeff Cancer 27th. Scott Relier is in 28th. Flavio Andoldo way down the field today. Late entry, did not make a practice time, 29th. Jeff Jacobson rounds out the top 30, Jake.
Certainly does. And then the final 5 drivers, 4 of them not setting time, so they'll be set by iRating. Paul Jackson is 31st ahead of Wayne Palmer. And then you've got Yi Sang-jin Austin Knight, Alexander Rogenbach in the B machine, the German, going all the way back there from 35th.
That's all top to bottom of the running order. Of note, Austin Knight and Wayne Palmer did not make it to the starting grid, so 33 drivers take the very quick pace lap behind the iRacing safety car. Drivers just about all set to go to see how they fare out in Week 13 action. The 31st running of the V Runoffs is all set to go, and for the first time, the Formula Vs are ready to battle in the show. Pace car is off, green flag is out, we're underway from Mid-Ohio. And a great launch for Arabian down the front straight to start things off. Farham holds on to second, Mayer in third, 2x2 a couple rows deep. Several more trying to shuffle into the line after near 3 wides. No trouble yet, but a big pack already forming. The top 10 have already broken away 1 second into the chicane.
And all of that was down to the early starts. We've got a very nice bit of 2 wide between Daniel Sadro and Caleb Patry then as they go through in towards the keyhole for the first time in this one. The big key on that start was that drivers were trying to get that run out to the final corner. There's going to be a natural gap that starts to form, and all of a sudden it's from Michael Johnson back. Kenneth Batley starts the second group, and now you've just got to cling on as you've got some side-by-side just in front. You can see at the front of the shot for the race lead as Arabian here is going to be under pressure. That is going to be Farnham trying to go around the outside. He'll take his first foray into the race lead, going through China Beach and into Madness.
Coming out of Madness, indeed. Arabian right nearly to the back end of that orange machine. Lots of puffs of smoke being brought up from the gear shifts and the brakes. As Mayer is also up to third. Here's a look at the interval now, about 2/10 on the opening lap here. Drivers, keep in mind, not expected to have to pit as a result of the open setups and no fuel restrictions. So keep that in mind. Drivers will be going full out in what is essentially a 30-minute sprint. Arabian tries to sprint on ahead as some of the drivers towards the mid-pack in trouble. Michael Johnson's involved.
Yeah, and it's all on his own, and we're talking about lap 1 being the most difficult lap of them all. He had no contact to help him as he went through towards Thunder Valley, and it's just as simple as the back end stepping out on entry, being a little bit caught out, and you can see he was desperately trying here to hold the car together just enough to keep it away from everybody else, but you can see fighting, trying to get that lock. The moment he got the grip back, the car tanked around again, and it's so difficult when you reach that level of grip here, Justin, to keep that car controlled in a straight line.
So Michael Johnson, the IMSA driver and driver's coach, in trouble already, and he's lost the draft 14 seconds back. Why don't we bring Michael in, because I don't think he was expecting that on the first lap. Michael, what just happened from your take on that one?
I was trying to stay out of the tail of the driver in front of me. I didn't want to get too close, and I just lifted a tiny bit too much going through there where I wouldn't normally lift, and that rear end, well, it had a different idea of who should be in the front of the race. So I told it front wheels. It said, no, we want to be in the front, and, well, the rear wheels won on that one.
Thank you very much, Michael, because right now the leaders are also scrapping. Thank you for the quick word, as Arabian nearly hit the back end of Farham there, Jake, nearly through Madness. That would have caused a lot of madness in the pack.
It certainly would have done, but I think that's some very clever driving by Brian Farnham at the front of the field. Knew he had to try and put the block and stop any run down the inside over at Madness, and the pack really is formed behind. Mayer, Sinkowski, Tullo is in there. Patry, you've got Sadro, L. Leroy Coppage, such a veteran when it comes to these low-powered open-wheel machines. Has been a Skip Barber driver in terms of iRacing for a very long time. Paolo Gori as well on the back, and here's some 2 wide. As there is Patry, and that is Thor Tullo just about holding place for the moment. So it's really getting dicey at the front, and because these cars are open wheel, one small tangle of tyres, and that's it, they're all gone. Arabian goes to the front of the field through turn 1, but he leaves the door open here coming towards 2, and this very difficult chicane section, everyone's jostling just to find some room.
Having to go back single file for the chicane, heading to the keyhole once again. Has made 16 laps to go this time. Here's the look from Simon Mayer meanwhile. In the 308, keep in mind, he's just been watching the popcorn and just watching an overflow out of the popcorn bag with these 2 battling in front. Does he join the fray to try and jump by the 15? Yes, he thought about it. No move yet. Simon Mayer actually staying hooked up as he now goes for it now. Near 3 wide, heading off towards China Beach. RM gets side by side near tire contact. Mayer tries to take the outside heading towards Madness. They stay 1, 2 to 3.
And they were starting to make a break, and I think they are at the moment here as they actually fight for fourth as well, as Patry tries to get by Senkovsky. We're on board with Senkovsky right now, who just about covers it off, but they are fighting behind, and this is crucial for these drivers in this field. The front five breaking away because Sadro and Coppage really work. You can see some of that locking as they go up the hill into Thunder Valley. It's all about now keeping momentum, keeping in range, and if they can break away that train, make it a fight of 5 and not a fight of 9, then that is just a little bit of ease taken off and a little bit of that added weight of pressure that they won't be dealing with as much in the opening stages of this race. You settle the first 15 minutes by making sure that there are no issues out there on track, but you keep yourself in the race. You've got to buy yourself, quote-unquote, a ticket to the end as Mayer searches for the inside.
Taking a little peek, still keeping it side by side. Of note, 3 drivers have had trouble make it 4 these past few moments. But right now, Farham, he's still holding on to second. Patry is up to 4th though, with a big send underneath the 39. Move Caleb up into that spot as they try and take a higher groove through the keyhole. Of note, Jacobson, Powell Brema both had to come down to the pit lane due to damage. Vince Ball was also involved in incidents this respective lap before coming across the stripe. So a lot of drivers in the mid-pack having a bit of attrition, but that has led to the top 9 to break away by 1.6 seconds into this train, which now sees Mayer go for the peak on Farnham. Farnham tries to take it outside again around Arabian. Too strong as Mayer takes advantage into Madness.
Yeah, it's so easy just to outbreak yourself when you've been running the same line. Slightly different positioning certainly hasn't helped in that regard, but you're now starting to work out, okay, how do I experiment out there with this? Yes, I've lost the position, but it's not the end of the world, and I think it's going to be a case of drivers who can feel comfortable in the way that they sit and wait behind certain drivers and get that run, and you're going to get drivers who want to be aggressive. Patry has been so good in this race. Started 8th, up now into 4th position, so a gain of 4 places right now. And it's going to be about what can you do? Do I want to go up there, get to 3rd, get to 2nd, get the track position? Last place you probably want to be on this circuit is right up there at the front where Foren's Arabian is. It's just P number 1.
Of note, we've had our first driver have to take the tow today, Jake, because a lap ago, heading down through the kink, disaster struck, and if we look at the 664, this is the signs of what happens if you time this up wrong. This.
Oh, and that is and it continues going through. That's how easy it is for Johan Boitenga get all caught out. And as they make that run down the straight, the key here is you've got 2 drivers then together out on circuit trying to take as much of a line as they can, and that is front to rear contact as they go through. You need a lot of communication going through that small kink. Everyone thinks it's easy, but that's how quickly easy becomes a disaster.
So that's now the first driver with the tow. Meanwhile, if we go back to live action, Madness is breaking out before Madness. Mayer just sent it 3 wide along with Farnham. How about 2x2 into Madness now? This is Madness for the race lead. They went 3 wide approaching China Beach. Mayer is the first to clear them.
And look at the freight training here for Arabian. He's back down into 5th position. He started this lap in the race lead, believe it or not. And this is going to be Senkovsky through on the inside on the run up towards Thunder Valley. And it's so easy to just be on the wrong side of a battle as they go through certain sections. They have dropped El Leroy Coppage and that group. So it is 6 in the fight right now. And it could very easily be 2 lots of 3. Senkovsky almost contact there, driving it around the outside at the very, very tough off-camber left-hander and able to gain that place. But it's going to have a lot of work. I put it to about 0.8 of a second. He finds himself back of the group at the moment. In fact, it is a full second almost. He is back, and that is a long, long road. We talk about 1.2 seconds being where the rubber band snapped.
Absolutely huge how that all came into play that time through turns 4 through 6. Now you see the train from Mayer's point of view. Keep in mind, Koski is keeping a little bit of the draft to Patry, just enough to keep a whiff of it. Right now you see him within about 5-6 car lengths still in this choo-choo train effect. Keep in mind when it comes to these drivers, This could still stretch back to 9th depending on how it fares out, but the problem is the driver's trying to catch up to them. They're now scrapping as they lost the draft off the corner. Here comes the lead.
Absolutely, and now here comes the move, and you've got to be clean now with these overtakes. You've got to be alert to the race situation around you. You've got that black box relative, which becomes so vital in terms of how you construct a race, and if you're not too careful out there, you can battle yourself back into more drivers attacking out there. Patry was searching around, looking for options, didn't really cost himself time, didn't really unsettle any angles out there for the likes of Simon Mayer, who was there in second position. And Mayer goes for a slide in his contact, and it takes Patry out of the race as well. All of a sudden, two of your leaders pretty much in trouble town.
Absolutely huge for this race early on for the V Runoffs. Let's take a look once more at the replay. And we've seen the sparks flare up a couple times already for this lead. This time, too strong into the corner, too quick, and a big slide for Mayer. Collects several drivers.
It did. Well, fortunately, it was only one other driver that got caught. Everyone else managed to find a way around it, but Simon Mayer there will feel very, very sheepish after that sort of issue, and very nearly there for Patry on the rejoin, running into troubles there. That was very, very alert heads-up driving by the group in front. It now means Brian Farnham has a 1.6-second lead over Forenz Arabian. But the key here now to the race, as we got some smoke back there down at turn number 1, it looks like there's been a little bit of a moment there. And again, it is Caleb Patry who is really struggling out there, who's gone around. So a lot of dramas going out there on circuit. And it's so easy for these one mistakes to compound into 2 or 3 mistakes. Now you've got to start working together as a group here if you're 2nd, 3rd, and 4th.
Meanwhile, Daniel Cedro, he's trying to go for some moves. As mentioned, he's got several sad faces on that car today. Will he be able to get himself into a happy face mode today? As he's now up to his highest spot of the race, Jake, up to 3rd. With that move around, Sitkowski trying to get himself into the podium spots. But now the main thing, too, is can this group catch up 1.5 seconds to get back into the draft of the 15 and have a chance at Farnham?
Well, if you wanted anyone to be on the front of this group, it would be Forenz Arabian right now, who is the fastest driver in practice and the fastest driver in qualifying. Arguably, he's the fastest driver in this field. And if he can just reach Brian Farnham and re-eclipse that sort of pace, he's going to be in good shape. Good news for those drivers behind. There's a little search from Cedro there down towards the inside of the carousel. Just a trifling look, trying to see if he can unsettle as he goes through. Key's going to be, can you catch? What have they done this lap? They've taken a 10th off, so they're about 3 tenths away from getting to where they need to. Brian Farnham's just driving clean and effective, and that's just proof right there. The purple check mark there, top right of your screen. Daniel Cedro, fastest lap of the race.
Very impressive for him. A bit of a peek from Sitkowski from behind. No move quite yet. Keep in mind, Paolo Gori is leading the next pack of drivers just behind this in the 67. A quiet run up 5 spots for him. Then Doyle is in 6th. Thor looking to jump up with Leroy Coppage. Still keeping up with that pack. Meanwhile, that's all trained together still. As they now get themselves down the straightaway, up through the kink within 1.3 seconds. Here's the move again. Cedro looking to play leapfrog. The Wisconsin-based driver to the left side, off towards China Beach. Arabian, though, with a better send. Able to hold on to the spot still. That lost them a 10th back. In fact, all their time just lost with that battle through the corner.
Absolutely, but you can gather it back again. 1.2 seconds. They are just about there in range, and this is the key to the track, the middle sector, and you're seeing here how Arabian is so good at just pouring it back in. I found it so interesting how early Neil Sitkowski left a good 150 meters before he needed to. Let the gap go out to about 6 tenths. He clawed it all the way back again as they were too wide. So there's always going to be options out there in terms of how you race to bring yourself back into play. And also they've got to be a little bit concerned on how they're running, because just behind them they've got Paolo Gori and Thor Tullo, and that was a change for position on this lap. Gori going through on Tullo. So this is 5th and 6th. I don't think they're out of this race either right now.
Speaking of drivers out of the race, though, Jake, remember that incident with Simon Mayer? Well, he just got involved in Air 1. He is among the DNFs now. 308 into the keyhole. Was in the choo-choo train for about the edge of the top 10. Jim Brewster, he made contact with in the braking zone. Day done, as he went off into the sand trap in the tires.
Well, we're just getting a look at it screen thanks to the Global SimRacing Channel replay here, and that is just not working out where other drivers brake. It's as simple as just running into the back, getting yourself caught up in trouble, and when you're not in a group that you expect to be in, Justin, that is where racing gets really difficult. If you do not understand where you need to be, is a little thought there from Arabian to try and take the lead away from Farnham. The key is going to be, in terms of how you race a race, who are you racing against? If you don't know who you're racing against and how they race, life gets exponentially more difficult to give that space and room to have that fair and effective racing.
As you can tell, meanwhile, keep in mind that lead group has closed up. It took them just 3-4 minutes or so to catch back up to Farnham, working with Arabian and company. Still, this could get interesting for the next 9 estimated laps to go, just past halfway to the race. So 18 laps total expect to be the full distance of the run order at this current pace these leaders have been running. These 4 have now broken 3 seconds or so away from the 67 and the 2:27 on the racetrack. Coppin just lost the draft of 5th and 6th. Green, Ray, Batley, Gibson, West are also grouped together in Pack 3. Arabian wants to lead Pack 1 though, near contact, again for the race lead.
And this is where you're starting to see drivers try and push the needle. You can make that move in towards turn number 1. It's not the easiest place to make it happen because you've got that big curb on the inside which separates the pit exit from the race circuit. So you've got to be alert. And any curb, really, on a car like this, you have to be alert. If they're high raised, these aren't here at Mid-Ohio traditionally. Anything high raised, you could very easily spin the car around. But this is going to be where you want to be alert, because I don't necessarily want to be second in the group trying to make an attack. I really want to be third here. You can see he's pulling up alongside, getting to side by side right now. But if you're Daniel Sadro, for example, you've got an opportunity maybe to push it 3 wide when you absolutely need to. Arabian round the outside, loose the back end. He's going to be off at China Beach.
Arabian with a major mistake, a rare mistake for him in this car. Arabian is out of the lead contention. Unbelievable.
It's as easy as I broke 5 meters too late. You can see there was a lot of locking from Farnham on the inside, but trying to get that car settled, you use a lot of trail braking to try and get that rotation in the car. And I think that's just another case there of just overshooting it in the cold conditions where oversteer is more prevalent there, Justin. And just like that, it's gone.
We were talking with Michael Johnson before today's race, and he had mentioned that in that corner, it was the light brake with the trail brake you mentioned. Very tough break for Arabian, who now runs in 7th because of that mistake. It's now a 3-car train for the race lead. Here's the look now back at Arabian. He's trying to hook on to Comppage's draft. 7 seconds back of the race lead group, keep in mind. So a long way for him to try and recover in the span of 13 minutes. All while the leaders, they're still busy squabbling.
And why wouldn't they be? They've got a race win to sort out. 3 places on the podium. Someone's going to be first, and the other 2 are going to be second and third right now. Farnham with control. Sadro here looking for a really good opportunity to go out there to really make something happen out there on track. And now you're going to have to start thinking about positioning here. And Sadro is going to try and make this move here. Go to the outside to try and pick it off. And when do you want to attack? Every time I've seen car 39 out there as they go side by side into the right here of China Beach, and this should be Sadro on the inside holding it off then through the long left-hander. He's not going to be able to get the line he wants, so back on the inside, Farnham now will have the advantage through the next right, and it's still going to be a fight side by side as they'll go under the Honda bridge and get that run forward. It looks like finally Sadro might just have the overlap, but no, Farnham again is going to go for it here. They've battled almost the entire middle sector side by side. Farnham, I think, finally just about got it. Can't fully clear it. We'll still get the call from the relative to stay side by side as they go into that next left and actually brushes slightly against the barrier, trying to get as much angle in, finally gets the move done. Every time I've seen car 39 out there, Justin, he's been lifting and coasting. He doesn't want to make that move until it's absolutely necessary, and it's that preservation that could give him the victory today.
Very smart, absolutely, especially with how aggressive these drivers have now gone, and especially how aggressive the defensive blocking has been from Farnham today. Keep in mind, they lost a full second plus from all that squabbling Remember, Arabian at the start of that last sector or so was around 7 seconds back. Guess what? He's under 5 now. That's how much time they lost. Nearly 2 seconds over the course of 2 sectors.
2 seconds, 2 sectors, and you got the likes of Tullo and Gory, who I think at this stage in the race would be very, very happy if those drivers in the front started to battle. They could drag themselves back on, and so too El Leroy Coppage and Foreign's Arabian to get going. Now, here comes again Daniel Cedro trying to get this move sorted out, and it's so difficult to break away in a track like this. Again, trying to make that run on the outside, but he's just not got that committalness. He gets a very nice squared off corner, which gives him a lot of run then up to Madness, but again, Farnham just wants to push the envelope here. He wants to try and get to the inside, and as he does, Senkowski's on the radio going, why you do this? Why do you keep fighting side by side? You're costing us a chance of a guaranteed podium.
And to say what Steve Ray said, they're having fun is what they're doing. If this was for points, the stress levels will be absolutely through the roof right now for everybody in this grouping. But these drivers know no pit stops, no fuel stops. Why not fight? Arabian, by the way, has passed Coppage. He's now under 4 seconds behind this. As Cedro now runs to the corner, there's a look at Arabian through the carousel.
Remember when that gap was up a little bit higher than that? Arabian is absolutely flying out there. Group now becomes 5 at the front, and you can see this comparison here over the last couple of laps, that it's really been a case of what can you do. Last 2 laps, 3 seconds off the back here to car 51 of Cedro. Tells you all you need to know right now about the way that Foreign's Arabian is driving here. Doesn't have to do anything out of the ordinary. Run qualifying style laps, you've got that chance, but as they make that run through the keyhole once again, it's going to be a case of hope that the front train continues to fight. I doubt we'll see it on this time, because Farnham actually just grabbed a bit of grass then coming out of the keyhole section, just pushing a little bit too aggressively.
Yeah, seen that and thought that was going to be a massive moment. Senkowski is also now building up a run as a result of that. He continues, though, to remain patient. The thing is, though, remember all that squabbling we've seen the past couple laps? It's now a 5-car train for the race lead. Powell Goring nearly just gone to the back end of the 39 into the braking zone, approaching China Beach and before Madness. So now it gets interesting with 5 estimated laps to go, under 10 minutes on the clock, coming up to 8 minutes precisely this time around on the minute clock.
So there are options available, and the big option is going to be, at what point do you say alliances are off? We've seen the front 2 want to battle, but when do 3rd, 4th and 5th decide they want to get into play? Senkowski, Gory and Tullo definitely have that ability to go through. A bit of understeer just behind there for Senkowski, costs him a 1/10 of a second. It's going to be no real worry at this point as they go through the final sector. It's so tough to get that run. We might even see on the final lap a big lunge in this one, Justin, up into that carousel. Do not keep that out of the mind as they look to get themselves gearing up with the late races to come.
This could get even more intriguing. We've already seen the popcorn overflow. At this point, the popcorn may be just about overflowing the movie theater at this rate. Under 5 estimated laps to go, approaching 7 minutes now on the clock. Farnham trying to build up the run. Hard send right behind Cedro. Kelski still rides on behind in 3rd, all while Gory and Hello try and close back on up. Here comes the run from the viewpoint of the 39s. The puffs of smoke brought up to the gears as they go to the kink. Cedro trying to go to the middle of the racetrack, goes to the left. Farnham to the right side. Senkowski, he's thinking about 3 wide. He backs it off as Farnham clears. And here comes another pass.
It was almost 4. You can see it there. Gory trying to go around the outside here of Madness now. And he's thinking podium, and he's got to get it done quickly, and he will do. Senkowski lifting off slightly, doesn't want to compromise the overall position. That's some great heads-up driving from the 7K iRacing driver in car number 39. Knew and understood that his race, if he wants to win or get the podium, had to lift off. Now, here's the key as we look at it here on the Global SimRacing Channel replay. The key here is, where do you want to go? Cedro knows that he is beaten at this point in time. No point defending on the inside. And there's the fan out. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Flying V formation. That looks like one of your Canada Gooses there, Justin.
Well, they nearly became scattered eggs around the racetrack, no offense, at that point, because That would have been dangerous to go 4 full wide. So it seems Senkowski backed off there to stay out of the trouble. But guess what? Arabian's now within 3 seconds, and he is nearly within drafting distance. And he's bringing Leroy Coppage with him.
Issue, though, is how much time will he have to get through the pack? That's what he's going to be thinking about right now. They crossed the line with 5 minutes and 50 seconds remaining on the clock. So they got to try and get into position. That's the key. Positioning. You know that a lap is about 1:40 here, so he's got himself 3, maybe 4 laps to try and get through all of these drivers. As now, once again, Cedro is going to look to the outside line, trying to pick this off and get an overlap here as he makes that run forward. But every time you go and every time you search for overtakes, you know that the pack behind's going to want to get some moves. Paolo Gori looks really, really aggressive right now in the number 67 machine. The Italian definitely wants to move up to second or even first.
And keep in mind, he was running around 6th or 7th for much of this race before all the squabbling began, and now he's in the thick of things. Keep in mind, with all the fighting too, as Gori goes to the grass and mows the grass with his car and saves it. The times are so razor thin right now that the estimated laps have flickered between 3 this time to around 4 or 5. That's how close the margins are, as Gori nearly sends it at the edge of the carousel.
That's how easily you can make a mistake. He was trying to set up the run to get as much of a drive off of the exit. The one thing that everyone forgets, though, about that carousel, it's slightly off camber on entry. So every time you try and get that turn, it's so easy for the car just to not respond with the way that the wheels turn. Just go straight on, and there goes the position. He's back into 4th. Senkowski back onto podium placing, and if there was any time to start thinking about making a move, I'd probably say now is the best time to make it happen. So they know with these 142, 143 laps, they got to start making moves now. Otherwise, they're not going to get those chances. Car 39, the Vendaval machine, wants to charge and, well, face on the car and all. He's got a very good opportunity to make things happen this time around.
Keep in mind that there is an incident limit for this part of the card. 12 incident points, you get a penalty. Now they're side by side for the race lead. Near contact up through the corner towards China Beach. Senkowski tries to lick the stamp, elects not to put it down on the envelope quite yet. 2 by 2 again. Arabian is now there. Arabian has now joined the draft as a result of this. Still side by side as Farham continues to defend.
And Farham has done so well here, keeping it into position. Gori back up to 3rd. But the key here for Forenz Arabian and El Leroy Coppage, they're on the back of this group. They've got to find a way through. And they're going to have to be reliant here on maybe a bit of argy-bargy. The train of 7 this deep into a race, well, I don't want to be the one to say it, but sometimes fireworks can go off, and this is what we could be seeing right now. Cedro has been very patient. He's stuck to a game plan on staying on the outside on the run to China Beach, but he can't stay there forever and make it happen. He's got to be the aggressor going forward, and he might get a chance now with a very defensive line out to the final corner from Farnham with what is effectively 2 and a bit to go.
Remember the incident point just mentioned? Leroy Coppage just had to pit Jake, so he's now out of contention. How will the others be in terms of those points is the question. Here comes Cedro to the left side of the chicane. Clipping the grass goes Farnham. Cedro has to back off, expecting the white flag this time by, based on the estimates, as Farnham tries to block this time, running up out of the keyhole.
We don't quite know as of yet. Depends how much they want to fight. They can lose upwards of a second and a half here in a 6-pack challenge as they go for the race lead. 1st and 2nd, 3rd and 4th, 5th and 6th. We're going to get some Noah's Ark sim racing. They're 2 wide. They're 3 deep as they run up towards this next section. And now the key's going to be Cedro on the outside, Farnham on the inside. Oh, and a double take. Senkowski tries to thread the needle here. Doesn't have a gap to work with. Farnham can breeze around the outside, but again, Cedro can use the navigation and the natural dip of the hill to get some good runs, and Arabian all of a sudden here might have a chance to jump up to 3rd as Cedro's so slow moving through this fantastic transfer section. He's defending for everything he's worth, and Arabian's up to 3rd.
What a run coming down towards Thunder Valley, coming up to the white flag this time. Gori tries to take a peek, can't do so around Cedro. Now Farnham, who has controlled much of the tempo of this race, he's led 10 of the first 16 laps. Looks to try and hold on for a couple more. Senkowski trying to line things up. Arabian with the recovery of gaining 7 seconds after a spin just 13 minutes ago. White flag is out. Final lap for Mid-Ohio.
And this is it. There will be no second chances. So any positioning that you can get is so important. Arabian is absolutely flying at this point in time. And he wants to try and pivot to that outside of Senkowski, try and open up one. It's not going to happen right now. But the key's going to be who wants to be uberly aggressive. This is where you start getting mistakes that claw in. And that's a very aggressive line into the corner there of the keyhole by Brian Farnham. It might leave himself slightly more vulnerable here on the exit. Senkowski's got a pretty decent run of things, and everyone is desperate. You can see some serpentine almost as they go through. Here comes Senkowski.
Side by side for the race lead on the final lap. Here comes Arabian. A hard cut to the left. 3 wide, heading off towards China Beach. Who will be able to commit to the corner, though? Senkowski gives the squeeze. Farham nearly hits both of them. They all keep it straight. There's the contact. Senkowski makes contact with Farham. They spin off the track. Arabian to the race lead. A couple more corners to go as Arabian tries to play defense with a 3-car length advantage.
Oh, it's such a shame to see those two out of it, but the key now, Arabian's been the quickest driver in this field. He's got a little bit of a gap, and it should be enough for 2 corners and the charge up the hill. Fight for second, third, and fourth. It's not over. Look at Tolo go.
Tolo has been very quiet throughout this entire battle, taking another peek, heading towards the carousel the final time. Arabian needs to defend one more corner. Sadro takes a peek. Contact between Gori and Tolo. Arabian out of the final complex. What a recovery, what a drive. Florence Arabian wins in the Formula Vs for the V Runoffs.
Oh, wow, that was a huge race in terms of pulling that together. They don't ask you how, they ask you how many, but they'll ask how on earth did he manage to pull that one back. Arabian had no right after his spin to win that race from 7 seconds back, but the miscommunications, the fighting, the squabbling in the pack, it gave him an opportunity, and do not give Florence Arabian a second chance.
Rest of the drivers now coming across the stripe. Steve Ray, amongst the drivers of late race incidents, was battling amongst the main pack. He'll finish around the top 20. In total, 26 on back had to come into the pit lane. Let's take a quick look at the race results here, as Arabian won over Sadro today by 0.3 of a second. Corey and Towell round out the top 4. Brian Farham, despite the contact, recovers to 5th. Neil Senkowski rounds out the top 6. Jason Green, Kenneth Batley, Ian Gibson, Bobby West. Very quiet race for him, 16th to 10th to round out the top 10, Jake.
Absolutely, in a very strong race. Caleb Patry had 2 spins in the space of about a lap, and that trouble brought him back to 11th with Mihail Vucinic out there. Jim Brewster, 13th ahead of Chris Montgomery, with Flavio Andalo in 15th position, and Jeff Cantor 16th. Luis Baboni is 17th ahead of Luca Leone, with Andrew Burr in 19th and Nico Schuch rounding out the top 20.
Vince Ball quietly 21st spot today. Marco Trespidi in 22nd. Michael W. Johnson finished 23rd today, with Alexander Rogenbuck driving his B car to 24th. Leroy Coppage had to come down and pit, finished in 25th. Al Brem after his trouble 26th. Steve Ray did not take the checkered flag after running inside the top 20 on the final lap, finished in 27th. Ai Gin finished in 28th. Paul Jackson 29th. Jeff Jacobson rounds out the top 30. The rest of the drivers were Mayer Relier, I should say, along with Johan Butenga. Wayne Palmer, Austin Knight did not take the green flag. With that, take a quick break. More coverage coming up right after this. You're watching GSRC from Mid-Ohio.
Hey there, I'm Nicholas Dubois, co-founder of Advanced Sim Racing. We are a Canadian company.
Welcome once again to today's coverage of the V Runoffs from the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course here on GSRC. Justin Prince alongside Jake Sperry, our producer Robert O'Brien. A phenomenal race for the Formula Vs just took place, where despite a mid-race spin, Lawrence Arabian recovered to regain 7 seconds to take the victory with a last lap pass. Lawrence, first things first, how?
Just consistence. I was just putting laps after and not giving up. I knew that if they battled, I had a chance.
Talk about the frustration when you ended up making that mistake off towards China Beach through turn 4 when you were battling for the race lead initially.
Just large F word, and I was done with it. My head was back onto the race.
So overall, how would you describe that race and the excitement levels from you in the car, knowing the fun that comes with the V runoffs and with the Formula Vs joining the show for this running?
For me, it gives me great hope that if we were not running any pit stops, we would see a lot more actions in the Weekend Warriors. So that's my preference.
But you have that discussion when it comes to the future of that, but who would you like to thank for your victory today?
As always, I thank my girlfriend. She's very supportive, seeing me race on the sim for hours on day. I love you, and thank you guys for having me on.
Congratulations once again on the victory in the Formula V's, Florence. Lawrence Arabian coming away with the victory for the Formula V portion of the V runoffs. It's now time for the SRF side of the card, and that means a little longer race, Jake, coming up. As well, though, this track now is without the chicane off to the keyhole.
And then that should allow more of an opportunity to attack in towards turn number 2 at the keyhole. It was a section of road where we couldn't really see too much passing because you had that transfer right into left. But the key now with a run in towards the keyhole is that you now have another overtaking opportunity out on circuit, so you can be more tactical with the way that you drive, and you have to be alert. These machines as well are going to be even more difficult to deal with. It's like dealing here, Justin, with a miniature prototype that you just shrunk down a little bit in size with the engine in terms of the weight. It handles very, very similarly to that. So you've got that opportunity to say, well, okay, we've got to go out there and make something happen today. And if there's anything to make it go and work, now's the time you've got to be alert and make things a reality. This is a really, really cool track to get this in terms of a combo.
Indeed, it's going to be very fun to see how these drivers fare out, and keep in mind, lots of history when it comes to the V runoffs with this car and its community. A lot of attention is always brought to this running of this action. Again, Weekend Warriors, keep in mind, also run Spec Racer Fords themselves for their league action as well. So a lot of racing history with Weekend Warriors and SRF action as a whole. But want to take the chance to talk about the event coming up here. 35 minutes is the distance compared to the 30 for the Formula Vs. A little longer. They're also in the midst of qualifying with their open setups.
They absolutely are. And the key here is that when you've got yourself 35 minutes of a race, an extra 5 minutes to what they have been going on, a handful of these drivers are going to be in a very tough position right now here today, Justin, because they are going to be pulling double duty, as it were, jumping out of one car into another. It's a very short time to get out of habits and attention spans and understand how the car is going to work. So you've got to be pretty much on it like a car bonnet if you want to try and make this race happen. What it does mean, though, it's an extra 5 minutes to make moves.
Yes, indeed it does, and I'm curious how this fares out for these respective cars today, as the weather conditions, it's a little hotter actually, Jake, compared to the Formula Vs. Keep in mind, 76 degrees Fahrenheit, 24 degrees Celsius the track temperature, 70 air temp, 21 Celsius on that side of things. And looking at the qualifying, Cedro carrying a lot of momentum for the last run. He's up in second. Look who's at the top of the board, though, 132.4 for the 78.
Yeah, the Estonian Aeronom, he is so good when it comes to this machine. He has been a pilot of this for forever and a day and has got it absolutely sorted out once again. And, you know, the key here to really mastering anything, and it's a phrase that I've heard often, I don't fear the person who can master 1,000 different openings. I can only fear the driver or the player who has mastered one opening 1,000 times, and that is Aeronom in a nutshell. He is someone who has mastered this car to a T, and I don't think there's anyone in the world who can get close. It's quite clear, 7/10 of a second right now in qualifying. That's a light year in this machine.
Yeah, very, very impressive for the Team Bushfink Racing driver. Bertoni is currently in second. Cedro, Vogel rounding up the top 4. Rakami rounding up the top 5 in total. Keep in mind some drivers that you mentioned doing double duty. Keep an eye on Florence Arabian, who's in 7th. Simon Mayer, looking to recover after his incidents for the race lead in the Formula Vs, is currently in 12th. Driver's just about done in qualifying here, as Gnome now looks to close out his qualifying. Will he numb down the time? No, he's 4/10 slower this final time around. So qualifying just about done, Jake. Your quick thoughts as we go to the historic portion of the V runoffs. 31 times now, these drivers with the green flag will have taken SRF action in the event's history.
The one thing they'll have to do is they'll have to disrupt Aeronom quickly, because if you let him get a gap, he's gone. That's as simple as that.
We'll see if that comes to be, especially with these drivers behind the iRacing safety car now for the starting grid. Aeronom, as mentioned on the poll today, wicked click and wicked quick at 7/10 up over Andreas Bertoni. Then Daniel Cedro, he was in contention for the Formula V victory, finished inside the top 3 there. He starts in row 2 now. John Vogel rounds out the top 4, Chris Murakami in 5th, with Wayne Palmer in 6th. He missed the start for the Formula Vs. Florence Arabian comes on over with the victory in that last race in 7th. Adam Bradshaw's in 8th. Bobby West and Johan Butango, who got in a crash in the kink in his Formula V, rounds out the top 10.
We look back then to row 6. It's Andrea Favini in 11th, with Alan McCain in 12th. Simon Mayer 13th, along with Paolo Bremer, Andrew Burt, and Joshua Justice in 16th position. Steve Ray goes 17th, along with Dave Spitzer. And the final row, row 10, here in this one, you can see getting itself rounded out nicely by Cantor and Short.
Jim Brewster's right on behind in 21st, Paul Jackson 22nd, Ian Gibson 23rd, with Lise Boney, along with Oshan Ginn rounding up the drivers who took times, 135s to the bottom of the board. Kozakowski also jumping into this car, did not put in a qualifying time though, Jake, with the tightness from the Formula V's, 26. Kane Howie-Birding says hello in 27th, Dale Petrie in 28th, Nico Rook in 29th, Flavio Andodo, Dowell, I should say, in 30th. The last of the drivers, Jeff Jacobson, Vince Ball, Francesco Bernardo, and Jason Green. 34 drivers all set to go. Of note, 058 and 32 appear to have not made it to the starting grid, so that leaves 32 for the green flag this time. But for many seasons, the runoffs have featured this car in the Spec Racer 4. Plenty of exciting moments and plenty of fun. How will this chapter fare out here? Green flag is out, we're underway. The SRFs for the V runoffs. Gone with a good launch off through the corner. Bertoni quickly getting single file. Cedro battles side by side with Vogel, getting clear for 3rd. Most of the pack, in fact, already single file, making their way to the keyhole for the first time under green flag conditions.
You can see it's pretty much single file. A bit of looking down there. I believe it's Adam Bradshaw trying to dive and lunge one through as they all try and funnel through and get a good run. Very nice run from Andres Bertoni there in 2nd, trying to keep in range early. And it's the middle sector which is going to be the key here, as that very nice retro Apple computer livery makes the run over towards China Beach. He's not going to be close enough to really make something happen. We might see something for 3rd with Vogel and Cedro. Not going to quite get there, though, in through at China Beach. So
trouble, China
nice
Beach!
Oh, a big one off in the background.
Well, Tank, I think, may have had a brake failure because he just went full throttle into the braking zone and bounced off a car.
Incredible. And it's as simple as he was trying to slow it down, trying to slow it down, trying to slow
Trouble
it
in the
down.
middle of the pack as well, because another incident has just collected most of the non-qualifiers. Spitzer, Baboni, Short have all just crashed, going through the S's as well. The leaders are keeping it clean. They have now broken to a top 8 grouping as a result of that massive issue for the 664. Rest of the field continues to chug along.
Yeah, that was Spitzer who found himself in troubles. It looked like a couple of drivers joined that one in sympathy, but the first incident then is just as plain as simple as you don't quite get it understood. Cold brakes, maybe a failure that we see. Definitely, I wouldn't say for Johan Boitenga intentional, as he was trying to desperately avoid everything. Went straight off, and it's downhill all the way at that point as well, so gravity against you as you make that issue known. And as much as possible, you've got to get that one back home and to the pits. The issue was Dave Spitzer, really. The second incident, he just looped the back end on his own, and that's where troubles found themselves foul as they go through. Front of the field, though, looks pretty calm here, Justin.
By the way, while we were showing those replays, the GSRC replay specifically, that same grouping we were looking at for that incident coming through the S's towards Thunder Valley, they crashed again in the carousel in the same total of cars. Absolute craziness in the first lap of the mid-pack. But the leaders, they're staying nice and calm. After all, you don't want to upset the Apple car, as Bertoni has on his machine. Here's a look at the trouble of the carousel.
Up the hill, you can see they're all trying to figure out a way to get through. Senkowski initiates the contact, then gets caught out in the grass, is trying desperately to keep it out of trouble. As he comes back on, he has a big slide, and, well, there's going to be pretty much everyone driving around trying to find some room. A very, very hectic start then here at Mid-Ohio for this one. And it is as simple as trouble can find itself in very, very interesting, mysterious ways. You can see coming up the hill, this left-hander is so difficult to get correct. And the moment you start understeering, bang, there's the contact. No room for Senkowski. I'm not sure where he's supposed to go in that one.
Yeah, that's a very tough situation to try and keep it out of the racing line. With that speed, you see everyone stacking up as well. Up along the edge of the carousel, and some missed the carousel, even without him being the factor in that. So a very rough first lap for some. Vince Ball is the only driver out of the race currently. Paul Jackson at 1 minute and 2 seconds repairs. Dave Spitzer, 24 seconds in the pit lane. Meanwhile, the Apple car is looking to try and bump draft Arrow Numb, pushing the back end of the 78 just about, as Numb keeps it very clean. The top three have now broken away as a result of everything too. Sandro has nearly lost the draft of the top two. Vogel has lost the touch as they battle for fifth.
Absolutely. Murakami there getting ahead of Palmer, and now Palmer pretty much spread eagle across the middle of the track there. Bradshaw trying to get around the outside here and has really done well. We'll open it up through this left. And if you can get enough of a run through that left, you'll have all of it working for these two right-handers. And it does! Oh! Try and put a way through on the inside. Arabian trying to get himself a move. And this is the key here in terms of how you race this car. You have got to make sure that you are clean in terms of the passes. This is one of the cars that has been updated as well here, just into that iRacing new damage model.
Yes.
So they have to be very alert with it.
Great point, especially when it comes to that. And they also adjusted some of the tire parameters in the last build as well. So there have been some adjustments recently to this SRF before today's action. Arrow Numb sets the fast time, by the way, as you look at the choo-choo train building up for fifth once more. Already 5 minutes off the clock. It feels like it's been an adventure so far when it comes to some of the battling as we see the purple car think about what to do here in the group. This is Arabian, who is currently -1 from his starting spot.
Certainly is, but I wouldn't call it the end of the world right now. It's been a very hectic start. You just get yourself settled down into a rhythm here in these 35 minutes and bring yourself back into play. Palmer absolutely demolishing the cones there on the inside, and that would have been an instant point as well to go into that then as they hit the brakes into China Beach once again. No changes of position this time, but the key really here in terms of how this group now forms is either they've got to work together or they fight amongst themselves. I think it's more the latter right now. I think the front four have gone right now. So Nom, Bertoni, Sadro, Vogel, they're gone. It's their race for the top four.
Funnily enough, right after you mentioned the cones getting hit, you've seen one of them apparently did get stuck to a car and get thrown right at the driver. So there's that, as Petrie has now had to tow his car. He has had a rough one after starting off strong. The 998 has now pulled off as he missed the braking zone in turn 4. That led to the tow. Still looking to train for fifth on back currently on the racetrack. Sadro has lost the touch fully. Now to the 78 in the 21. Here are the race leaders. Bertoni with the quickest lap by only 16 100ths. That time by the stripe.
He's got the toe. It's as simple as that. If he can stay within the toe, keep that element of pressure on Ironom, who has been here many a time before, who knows how to understand this track, then he's good. The moment that elastic band, though, snaps, he falls outside of a second. That's where we're going to start seeing the trouble here for Bertoni, because as we know, Ironom has the best pace out of anybody in this field, and when he's at the front, he's just trying to needle around that Bushfink car, try and move forward. Bushfink, a team that's been there a lot. Look at this, though. Murakami getting absolutely swamped on the run into China Beach, and Arabian with a power move, almost getting it through on Bradshaw, who's not giving this one up.
Bradshaw's also been very aggressive with his passes so far in that white, green, and orange machine as Arabian tries to pull off a slide job. That doesn't work as Bradshaw gives the squeeze on back to the S's. Give the spot to Bradshaw. That just lost him 4 seconds, though, as more bobbling and weaving as one car's into the wall.
Absolutely. I just saw that in the back of shot there going through. That's Wayne Palmer in trouble, and here's what makes this section of road difficult. No contact. He just lost the back end going through that transfer. He was then off in the grass, and this is not your Herman Tilke design track here, Justin. This is the sort of track where you got gravel and grass on the outside, and you are not going to slow down. You are going to find trouble.
Some big trouble indeed for Wayne Palmer. He's now into the pit lane. Meanwhile, that battle going on for 5th. They're dooring each other now. Bradshaw just fed the door to Arabian. He knocks over a cone. They're back single file. Arabian, not liking that, sends it up towards the keyhole. Side by side, couple rows deep once again as a huge block now from Murakami. Arabian now clears on by. This is an absolute wrestling match for this spot.
Oh, and you've got Bradshaw in there as well, so why don't we have the APA going out there and wrestle and have a good time? It's a very much a case then for Bradshaw as he gets back to Arabian here of what do you want to do? Murakami's going to try and get past both now, and we are 3 wide into China Beach. Oh, Bradshaw getting a little bit squirrely and out of shape, and there's the contact. Bobby West getting it all wrong and finding himself with nowhere to go, and that brings Murakami around.
Bobby West comes back to the racetrack with no contact through Madness, but this was Madness before the corner named Madness again. This looked like trouble the second they started approaching the braking zone. Apologies over the radio already from Bobby West.
I'd expect nothing less from the driver of his character. You can see they're 3 wide. Bradshaw's going to check up a lot here because he's got a slide on, and Bobby West, he's pretty much put himself in a position where he's got nowhere to go. He's trying to get out of it from not hitting the 229. Unfortunately, he clips the rear of the 901 of Murakami, and that is so unfortunate because he has no way, with how close he was going into China Beach, that the back end was going to step out there on Adam Bradshaw.
Bad news, by the way, in live action. Of note, the teammate to Aeronom, Alan McCain, has just spun around. The 212 had that spin in the carousel just 3 seconds ago. So now the top 2 lead by 3.3 seconds. John Vogel still in 4th. Arabian still grouped up with Bradshaw after that. Here's now where some of the drivers have bounced around. How about Steve Ray? He's quietly up 9 spots inside the top 8.
Sometimes that's all you need to do. Just quietly pick up those positions. One at a time gets the job done. He's got the group behind Murakami, West, Burr. Josh Justice is there as well in the 477 car, and he'll certainly be looking for many opportunities to move through. But the key now is, if you gain those places, to not just give them away again. You've got to be very, I would say, stable with the way that you run. He's about quarter of a minute behind now, 15 seconds off of your leaders, and he's just trying to race to see if you can get much more out of it. The big battling up front, don't going to really see too much more of that to unsettle and dethrone. It's going to be now all about staying calm in these stages of the race.
Give Steve Ray credit, though. He puts in a lot of work when it comes to both the Formula V and Weekend Warriors and SRF communities with this event. 31 times now this event's been ran. Steve Ray, big portion and proponent of this running of the event, being one of the co-hosts essentially for this running. Lots of work put in by the 11 driver.
A lot of work, and it really does show that we get 2 very strong grids back to back here at this running of Mid-Ohio. So he holds his position at the moment and is doing a really, really good job of keeping this secondary group behind, with West there and Murakami. Murakami, I think, is just about to line one up here into the keyhole. This is what we say about this now being an overtaking opportunity, thinking to the inside. But again, if you run it deep into the corner and use this off-track, off-camber nature, you can get that drive off the exit. And this is where you need to be alert to the lay of the land. And that's where Stevie Ray gets the underlap here on the 901. We can't do anything but sit and watch as that car there on the inside regains its position it had lost temporarily.
Back lined up, Bobby West really backing up the corners now after his mistakes a few laps ago as they check up now behind the 11 again. Near contact as West takes it a bit wider. Andrew Burr is now also back in the fun. Of note, McCain has just had an error issue. So far, that other Bushwink machine has not had a fun ride. The Bushwink machine, I should say. McCain now 2 spins in that 212 is now leading a grouping for 15th. Here's a look at him now in that respective pack. He's right behind a lap car and Paul Jackson.
Yeah, so at this point it's going to be difficult. And here again comes the battle between Murakami and West. And that is a block pass through from Bobby West. Got that fantastically sorted. Murakami gets an incredible drive, just tucks himself up underneath. And we'll now have a look towards turn number 1. Oh, maybe a malfunction at the junction as they go in towards 1. That is a very nice move there that gets it all sorted. But I do want to point out, leaders 0.2 of a second, the gap only. Bertoni has been in really nice positions right now, though if he wanted to, he can get it done. West again going to the outside here towards the keyhole, but can you unlock an overtake here? I think Murakami had that covered.
Yes, indeed, as West now checks up a little bit off the corner to avoid the grass. Again, remember, the incident limit similar, in fact, same as the Formula V race taking place beforehand. 12 incident points means you have to come down to the pit lane. 18 gets you a disqualification. Here comes West. Will Murakami give him the space? Last time they were near side by side, there was contact, of course, with the checkups. Murakami, though, this time holds on. West not able to get the pass done quite yet still. Keep in mind, West originally gave him this spot back. He wants it back, and they've lost touch away from this.
They certainly have, and this is what happens when you start fighting and you start battling around a track like this. If you are not able to make moves cleanly and effectively, you are going to lose ground to cars in front, and that 1.3 seconds rubber band snaps. You're not going to get the benefit of draft this way now, and you're going to have a lot more of a tough time trying to defend these positions. It now brings Burr in, it brings Kane Halliburton. Talk about a driver here, Kane Halliburton in the number 12. Drives traditionally for Racecraft Engineering, was actually racing in the Force Dynamics Dallara iRacing Grand Prix Championship earlier on this season. Was the only driver not to score a point, but someone who is very versatile, very adaptable, and the Londoner is giving himself a really good showing through the field. I think top 10 is really on the cards right now.
Absolutely the biggest mover through the field, and I remember listening with a lot of that as part of some of the work for that series. That team towards the end, when, keep in mind, they missed some races, that respective group being in their drivers in that respective series, they were looking to just have fun by the end of that campaign. And right now it looks like Halliburton, he's having fun cutting his way to the pack. Can he get this done for 10th though? Huge send underneath Bobby West. He gets it done. He's up 17 spots. Keep in mind his pace is right up there with the race leader's pace at the moment.
Oh, it really is, and it shows that sometimes drivers have different MOs in terms of the way that they race. I'm sure if Halliburton wanted to, he could race Irunom out there for a victory, but he's choosing to race his way through the pack. He's only 22 seconds adrift of the lead. That's very impressive at this point in time. He gets tucked up behind Murakami here. Gives himself a chance. Not the easiest place to get it done here at this off-camber left-hander, but if you can open it up, get an angle to the inside, he does so, and he forces it open. Pry it open, why don't we? And get that place done. That is how you make moves, and that is 3 places gained on this lap alone.
So Halliburton now up to 9th spot. 20 seconds back of the race leader. Bertoni has lost ground, keep in mind, to Errol Num. They're around halfway through this running. 13 estimated laps to go that time by the stripe, coming up to 12 this time around.
They know that this is a longer race, so they've got to pace their efforts accordingly, and you just tackle this sort of race in charge.
Or he can do that.
Oh, no. There goes Stevie Ray.
Stevie Ray causing some calamity there as Ray overcooked the run through the keyhole. Ray, very impressed of the avoidance levels shown as no one hit him.
Well, he was spread eagle across the middle of the track, and it's so easy to have a little bit of a hit. So he gets it through in nice, and just as the track dips away, the back end steps out, and that's just being a little bit too eager on the throttle, trying to get that transfer. Back end wasn't quite settled, and it's sometimes what we call compression damping as you go through a certain style of corner. And there's been another spin actually right now, and I'm not sure who that is who's gone. It's Alan McCain again.
Kane just had some more trouble indeed. Here's a look at Howie Burton. Meanwhile, remember he charged his way to the pack and then lost some of the spots from it and got doored into turn 4.
Well, that is, I would say, a little bit of not Kane Halliburton's fault first and foremost there. That's the 477 of Joshua Justice thinking, oh, look, I've got to run. I'll go to the inside. No, you still got a car there, buddy. And then Kane goes around here at this point, and he was unsettled trying to go through the corner. You get yourself into sort of ranges where sometimes you get yourself out of your comfort zone. You have a little tap and it breaks your concentration. That was just a pure break of concentration.
So with all of that, Howie Burton is back to 13th. Here's a look at Joshua Justice now battling with Burr. 223. Justice able to hold on to that spot now with that bit of a swap for position. They were the other way around last time by. As we take a look at the track temp, it's going up, mind you. And I'm not just talking about the tempers we've seen on the circuit. The tempers of the tires are going to have to deal with some temperature changes here.
Absolutely. We're in the early afternoon. In-sim time is about 20 past 2. This point in time as Murakami again in that battle is going to have to be dealing with Bobby West, who tries to unlock it, but nope, not going to quite find it for the moment. Murakami will just have to be patient, sit, wait. Opportunities will come along a little bit later on here in terms of this one for Bobby West. But, you know, we are seeing it right now. Drivers are just finding out why this is difficult, why this car is so tough to handle, and you've got to treat it the same way that you do a prototype. It's not going to be as simple as you just put the power down and the grip's going to be there like a GT3 or an open wheel formula machine. You have to work with this machine, and you're going to have to work a lot through some of these slower parabolic style corners, which are just prone in these machines to having the back stepping out and you turning around.
Now down the front straight. 11 laps to go that time by, estimated at the stripe. Keep in mind, Bradshaw has been reeled in by Simon Mayer for his draft for reference. Howie Burton is still holding on to the draft in front of Lavioni, as West still also in front of his group. Here's a look at Bradshaw. They have lost touch, keep in mind, to Arabian, who is starting to pull away. Last time by, picked up, in fact, half a second over Bradshaw. Quiet run so far for Mayer compared to the fireworks when he battled for the lead in the Formula V.
Yeah, definitely a lot more quieter for Simon Mayer, and he knows he's just going to have to try and pick them off one at a time. At this point in the race, he managed to just get himself within a second, and you can see it here in terms of the gap. Very good run. It's about 5.5 tenths then as he makes his way up through this transfer. Try and get as close to the curve as you possibly can before sending it up towards Thunder Valley, which is this small dip. And really the key for Mayer here is use this next lap to get up to Adam Bradshaw, find a way to make that overtake the lap next after.
See that weaving and bobbling through the carousel. Higher line this time for Bradshaw. No major gainage yet. Meanwhile, side by side is Murakami. Might lose the spot into the carousel to Bobby West. West clips the grass. The other one checks up, tries to go for the switchback, the in and out. Gets the run down the front stretch. Does he take it? No, he'll just bump him.
Yeah, wise decision. Not wanting to make the move into one. It's a short shoot run. It's very easy to lose time through there. They've got Josh Justice just there, and here comes the lead battle now. So Andres Bertoni, tired of sitting at the back and watching Eru. Nom's going to come straight back down the inside there. That was brave on the brakes. Bertoni not willing to give this one up, but Nom around the outside. Well, let's put that one up to the master of the car. So that then for Bertoni will be just the first sight, I'd say, Justin, of I want to try and make a move. So that's the first little skirmish. We'll see what these other skirmishes will do later on in the race.
Thought I heard Bertoni actually lighting up the tires a little bit, trying to get on the throttle there through madness. Now he tries to build up the run to the carousel. Last time by, he did have a jet out to the left side of the track through this portion of the track. No jet out too much this time for Bertoni, not as close as before. Keep in mind, for both of these cars, there is the fun factor brought on in. You have Don't Upset the Apple Car for Bertoni, then you have Don't Kill the Burr for Num. So in other words, both of them kind of say on the back of each other, please don't wreck each other here.
I'd agree. Wrecking each other would be the last thing they want, since they've got 6.5 seconds to Daniel Cedro, and they built that gap quite nicely in the early stages of the race, and I think now's the time where they're starting to just experience whether they want to start going out there being aggressive. I think Bertoni has been a very smart driver in the number 21 car. He's just been keeping himself in a very nice position, and at this point he's just got to be very alert to when is the right time to strike. It won't be now on the run in towards China Beach. He'll just sit, he'll give himself another lap to give himself those opportunities.
Oh, trouble in front of them! One car just came out of the grass through China Beach, in through madness, and is madness as they drive by Dave Spitzer. Near trouble there is that a couple others had also just wrecked at the same time. Here's the 27 letting drivers go. Jeff Cantor has just pulled to the pit lane. Absolute calamity up to the road. Here's what Spitzer had to do.
Well, here's the issue that you have. You outbrake yourself through turn 4. You find yourself in the grass. Now you've got the task of slowing yourself down. And immediately as he gets that grip of asphalt once again, he goes around. No real worry for those drives in front. They would have had a bird's eye view on how that accident was going forward. You get that Vista-style view as you go in towards China Beach. So I'm pretty sure that they would have been happy and fine with the way that Dave Spitzer's incident would have happened. Would have scared them, worrying about a rejoin. But they're okay at the moment. No harm, no foul. Play on.
I'm actually warning Bertoni, there's trouble ahead the second he's seen that on the relative it appeared. So now, those drivers stay 1-2 with a gap of nearly 7 seconds. Here is that battle for the race lead through the keyhole once again. Num has not let that 21 Num into his gap, trying to break the draft now with 11 minutes to go. Of note, another issue in through China Beach and madness now. Zedkowski has just went off into the sand trap. Also battling are these two again. Murakami and West again side by side. And this time through the keyhole.
When if they haven't, that's the question that needs to be asked. West takes the uber wide line, trying to open up the exit here. And he's done so fantastically. That is some great angling in terms of how you tackle this circuit. And one of the few instances that you find on a road course where different lines can produce different results. We often talk about Brooklands and Luffield as a section of track over at Silverstone where you can take different converging lines. That for Bobby West works a treat. He moves himself up in front, and with every reason to smile as the group behind him also have themselves in a little bit of a scrap at this point in time.
Once them Justice Burr, Howie Burden you're referring to. Keep in mind Howie Burden in a great recovery from his spins. See him back to 13th. Of note, a few drivers have now reached incident limits for penalties. Of them, Pratanka, Cantor, Baboni, McCain have all had to come down and serve a quick stop-and-go penalty. So that is now a factor for some of these drivers, especially the ones who have been in the argy-bargy moments, including these two.
Yeah, absolutely. So they've got to be nice and stable and patient in terms of the way that they're driving. If they start making mistakes, 1Xs, 2Xs, that's trouble. Race lead battle, though, again goes nose to tail. But Tony thinking about whether he wants to try and angle it, and I think he's just slightly lifting out of it right now. He's not going to go for the move just yet, so he's still there, and ultimately he's giving himself an opportunity when it counts. He doesn't want to, quote-unquote, show his hand too early at this point in time, Justin. If he does that, then simple, he'll just get the counter for it come the final couple of laps. So it's probably the best decision to wait. Let Aero drive to his tempo, and then when you want to strike out, strike quickly, give yourself no time to be struck back.
Lap traffic ahead, McCain just had another spin, all while Murakami makes the move through turn 4 this time, off to madness. With the race leaders, though, they have just had to pass by McCain because McCain ended up just running through the middle of the grass in the carousel to let them go. Here's another battle also coming into play. 13th, Avini quietly, but Pablo Breme swapping back and forth. Breme back to 14th where he started the race.
Sometimes a net zero is a good thing in a race like this, and I'd say that they're both doing really good jobs out there. For Vini, up then, or trying to get back up, he'll be -2 in terms of his position right now, and that's the group in front they're trying to chase. Bird Justice and Halliburton's got through on both of them, and now we are getting cars in. Adam Bradshaw is in the lane, and he's got heavy damage to the front. Look at it as he goes through the pits. He's in so much trouble.
Oh, you mentioned the damage model. He was having something flip around at the front of that car, and it was as a result of contact, and guess who? Dave Spitzer collected him. Spitzer spun again through the complex of 4, 5, and 6. Here's the stop sequence where you'll see how quick the fast repair sequences can be here. But the car behind him in the pit lane is who he made contact with, because Spitzer lost it again, and Spitzer this time couldn't get out of the way to the middle of the racetrack for Bradshaw and company.
Yeah, and it was a really awkward place in circuit, so was able to get back out and going again. If you don't need tyres, if you don't need fuel, you just click in, jump out, jump into the spare car, the T car as sometimes it's known, get back going again. Front two continue though, and they'll have 7 minutes on the clock, and just a bit under actually as they will cross towards the line. So they know now they've got a long way to go still. 7 minutes. Doesn't sound like it's a long way, but it is. Especially when you're at the front and you're having to look in your mirrors all the time. They're very raised mirrors there as well. You've got to be very alert, and I'd say with mirrors like that, they do have that ability as well to flex a little bit out there. So you've got to really focus and concentrate on where a driver is behind you.
We have our first disqualification of the night, by the way, for incident points. McCain has been the first driver now in the V runoffs this running to reach the incident limit for either race. He is now out as the leaders try and go full in. Here comes Bertoni for the send to the inside. Nom tries to give the squeeze back through towards Madness. Got the preferred run, though, to the bottom side of Madness. Switch back for Bertoni. Bertoni rides the curb. Still single file now for the exit of turn 6.
It was a good effort. He was trying to get up and under and open up that run into 6, but the key really for Andres Bertoni is that if he's going to get it done, he's going to have to get a little bit closer to Eru Nom. He's going to have to pinch him a little bit, and this is where you need faith in the car and how you handle it. Eru is someone who has been absolutely fantastic in terms of how he handles a machine like this, the Estonian. For Andres Bertoni, the number 21 from Hispanoamerica, he knows that he's got to get there, but over the course of this lap, it's been struggle street. He's just found himself out of shape, out of sort, and from that point, now finds himself 6/10 back. He won't have a chance this lap. He'll have to spend 2 laps just getting back.
5 minutes to go this time by, as these drivers, keep in mind, have stayed net zero on their points, or rather, their positions gained around the racetrack. Keep in mind, while technically as a company net zero still exists, they are worth more than $200 million. In terms of racing standards, if you're Bertoni, you want to gain that 1 spot. If you are Nom, you do not want to lose that 1 spot. In other words, the intensity level could pick up if Bertoni gets back in the rhythm, because he's fallen like this a couple times already, Jake, but has reeled it back each time.
That's the key. Draft's really strong, so if you're able to reel it back, you may as well. And it's really shown that Andres Bertoni has a really good, stable way in terms of he races. Top 4 in this race, by the way, are unchanged from their grid positions right now. Nom, Bertoni, Cedro, and Vogel. So not really much to talk about in terms of that. But at least at this point, you'd say this is a race far from over. The leaders know that they can't afford to get themselves caught up in any issues out there on track, and they're starting to hit a whole boatload of lapped traffic. Cantor, Jacobson, Baboni, Senkovsky, they're all there to try and pick apart through, and that might just be an advantage for the car who is in front of the train, because he gets to pick it through first, and there's Halliburton.
Halliburton trying to get to a race high P7 here. He's back where he was for his last spin, in 9th position. Kami trying to hold on in that spot for now with this wrestling match between him and Bobby West. 3 estimated laps to go. Of note, Wayne Palmer has also just had an issue as Howie Burton can't get the run, this time towards the carousel quite yet. Will he be bold though? He tries to be late on the brakes, nearly snapped it around this time, has to wait a little longer.
Certainly does, and taking that uber wide line, again, another understanding of what makes that carousel such a difficult corner on the run through. Bobby West will not be the most pleased seeing those drivers behind him. We're down to just 3 minutes on the clock coming up to, so this is going to start getting dicey. We're going to start seeing drivers now really trying to make these moves. Murakami here, thinking at the inside. It's covered all the way by West, but now Halliburton will have the ability to use the double toe.
Will he take it, though, is the question with under 3 minutes on the clock, coming up to 2 laps to go, this time by the Runoffs, the 31st running. Here comes the first look for Murakami. Will Howie Burton take it 3 wide? Of course he will. Up the middle he goes. The late break as well. Howie Burton clears both of them, as now he has to dodge a car coming out of the grass. Simon Mayer's had a problem, now he can get the 6th here.
Well, there's Simon Mayer having a mare, so to speak. He just lost it on his own, spinning the car through China Beach, getting it back going. No loss of position, but Kane Halliburton is super quick out there. But they do have 2 laps as they get themselves going through, as Bertoni and Nom start to close even further on this group. Here comes Halliburton, though, searching for the place, and he's going to get it here up Thunder Valley and in towards the left.
This may be the highest that Howie Burton can go, as depending on the incident points and how they fare out of note. As that went on, Trouble for Justice shuffled him back to 15th. But we're under 2 minutes now on the clock. 2 laps to go. White flag expected next time around for the race leaders. Nom and Bertoni have reached that gaggle of traffic within 5 car lengths. And they're also fighting, by the way.
One off in front.
And now that 1 car up in front, that is Senkowski trying to stay out of the way. Nom drives on by here. Bertoni also dodges. That was near disaster, as here comes the traffic into the line.
You have to commend the car control there from Neil Senkowski and the experience coming into play, not just driving up into the racing line there at Madness Corner, but taking the inside through the grass and getting a safe re-entry. There goes traffic to the inside, so that's Cantor that's going to be dispatched of. But every time they've got to go through, they're going to be off the line, and Nom's going to have to go around the outside here. Oh, it's a little bit of contact, and suddenly getting checked up through all of that was Bertoni. A huge moment in terms of the race there with almost 1 to go, and Nom, I think, has got the better of it.
Baboni, as expected, reaching the incident limit right there. That was not pretty. White flag is out final lap. Will that be the difference for Nom now as a result of that door check?
Wow. Well, the key there for Aaron Nom is that it's a 1-line corner, as you see a lot of smoke there in the back half of the circuit, so something's gone on back there. But the key to that was very, very simple. You've just got to make sure that you are not putting yourself in a place of trouble. Nom left all the room he possibly could to still make the corner, and that immense car control got himself there. Bertoni in the grass.
Bertoni holds on to it, though. That may have cost him the chance here. A double toe now for Nom for the lap traffic. Of note, Andaldo has just come out of the traffic as a result of the incident with the smoke in this section before. Now, Nom looks to make it through this section cleanly. Lap traffic forced to check up. Now the traffic moves right, that's Jacobson. Bertoni rides the curbs to get around him. Only Finn is left to pass with a third of the lap to go. Nom makes the move on the right side, this time coming through the S's.
He's given himself a chance, though, here, because that was not easy to make the passes on Ishan Jin. And now Bertoni's got 1 chance, and it will be at the carousel.
Will Bertoni get the run he's looking for? He's tried the pass on the left side a couple times. Can he do it on the final lap? Checking up for the rumble strips. Nom hugs the right side of the racetrack. Bertoni tries to arc it wide along the edge of the stripping. Nom with the rough run up the corner. It's still not enough for Bertoni. Nom wins in the V runoffs for the SRF.
That, when we looked at practice and qualifying, looked like it was going to be a runaway. It was anything but there, and what an important race it was between there and the end. Seidro will take the final spot on the podium, but what an incredible battle.
It's not done yet, though, for positions. Mayer just crashed with Bobby West.
Oh, no.
That was the battle going on for the top 10 as they are still getting trouble for that section. West in the wall still.
And that is just drivers giving each other that last lap room. West with nowhere to go as they leaned on each other. They both unsettled, and this is a heavy, heavy slam into it. You can see they come over. It's just a case there. You can see Mayer lost actually the grip going through. It was him sliding about, having no room thanks to Bobby West, that saw both of them off the road.
And Bobby West hard into the tires as a result there.
Wow.
West is still trying to finish this race out. Will be the last driver to take the checkered flag here. Give credit to West, not wanting to give up at all after this one. So, as West crosses the stripe, we'll take a break. In turn, 20 drivers will finish on the lead lap for this one. Post-race coverage coming up after this. Welcome back to GSRC's coverage of the V Runoffs, and it was an eventful second part of this event this running. For the SRFs, it was Aeronum taking home the victory with a 0.2 of a second difference over Bertoni. Cedro rounds out the top 3, 11 seconds back, a quiet run for him, but a strong performance throughout the event in total. John Vogel finished in 4th with Florence Arabian in 5th. Kane Howie-Burden went for the back of the field to 6th position. Rakami finished in 7th. Avini finished in 8th spot, while Bradshaw and Brummy rounded out the top 10 with a calamity-filled final lap.
Absolutely. So a lot of gains then going through. 11th would belong to Andrew Burr with Joshua Justice in 12th there. Brian Short will take 13th, which is lucky for some, and Nico Shuk takes 14th place. 15th in the end belonged to Ian Gibson with Jim Brewster in 16th. Stevie Ray, up and down day. 17th in the end for him with Flavio Andalo in 18th. Bobby West falling all the way back to 19th. Johan Buitenga, who had that big issue on lap 1 back in 20th.
Simon Mayer finished a lap down as a result of the last lap crashes with Jenny in 22nd. Jacobson, along with Zentowski, inside the top 24. Cantor finished a lap down as well as Wayne Palmer and Baboni. Baboni had an incident limit point. Melanie coming to the white. Paul Jackson finished 28th. McCain, the only driver throughout the event this running to get a disqualification for incident points, finished in 29th. Same lap as Dave Spitzer, who had an eventful one. Petrie and Ball rounded out the final drivers who entered the race. Bernardo and Green did not take the green flag for this running. With that, though, it was Aeronum who ended up dominating this one. All 23 laps went his direction. He now joins the broadcast booth. The bird stayed alive today, and the speed looked good, Num. First things first, how are you feeling after winning the 31st running of the SRF portion of the V Runoffs?
Yeah, it was quite good. It was a very difficult race. I couldn't get away. It should be easier. Lap 13, I think 1 second lead, and I went wide turn 1 and got cone stuck under my car for 2 laps. So I think my stop is about 1 second slower per lap. So yeah, I thought that was it.
Didn't even see the cone that was wedged underneath the car. I'm curious on this with the changes now with the cars in general. How that felt, especially knowing the damage model's been adjusted with the cars as well as a little bit the tire parameters.
Yeah, I knew I hit something. I went wide turn 1, but yeah, I didn't know the cone was stuck. 2 laps later, I saw the cone fly out in one of the corners, and the speed was back right away.
So overall, you end up leading every lap despite the cone being stuck underneath your car. How does it feel to be a part of an event such as this, knowing the community and the way it gathers each time around week 13 for this type of action with this car 31 times now? It's done so in its history.
Yeah, it's very fun. The car is even better than ever before to drive. It's so easy to drive now. So in that way it's easy, yeah. But usually there is a lot of quality drivers like today. So yeah, I don't know how many times I won, maybe 2 or 3. So that's pretty good.
Anyone you want to thank for your run today?
I'd like to thank the sponsors, the league admins who put the race up, and all the drivers, and you guys there in the booth.
Congratulations once again on the victory here in the V Runoffs, Hero.
Thank you.
We're now able to num a race victory. Meanwhile, standing by with Jake Sperry, we'll have the chance to speak with one of the drivers who was very consistent both races. How about Daniel Cedro, coming away with a third-place run in the SRF side, was very strong in the Formula Vs. He's now with Jake.
Absolutely, Dan. Let's talk Formula Vs first and foremost, because you found yourself in, I would say, a very important race today. You were up there battling for the victory. How difficult was it to effectively complete moves like that today, knowing that you had drivers like Farnham along with you, who was always going to make things difficult, and especially towards the late stages of the race?
Yeah, no, it was incredibly difficult. He is very skilled, and Mid-Ohio is one of those tracks where you can race like that in these sorts of cars. So I knew that if I was going to try to pass him, I would need a half of a lap, maybe 3/4 of a lap of side by side. But the best part about it, and first of all, congratulations to Brian on this. We tapped once in that entire race, and we were just racing very hard, but we were racing very respectfully. So that was just a lot of fun, is what it was.
And so let's contrast that to what you had in this race, which was probably the loneliest race I think you've had in a very long time. You found yourself 11 seconds back of the leading duo, 8 seconds ahead of John Vogel. Would you say that was just what we'd call a Sunday night's drive?
Exactly the opposite. Actually, it will sound strange for me to say this. I felt that was more intense of a race than Formula V for me, simply because the car is harder to drive, and trying to just switch from Formula V, I'd done a lot of practice in it, getting ready for the race. All of a sudden, all my brake markers moved, and so it was actually, I was doing my best because I needed to give myself room in case I made a mistake, and I was just fortunate to keep doing qualifying level laps, mistakes here and there, but that was actually more intense, believe it or not.
Well, that intensity is certainly there. But in terms of now how you move forward with this fantastic series, what's the target now? Because you've got back-to-back great results here in this series in both the V and, of course, the SRF. So opportunities looking, podiums, victories, championship pushes, are they on the line?
Well, as far as the regular season, I don't actually know what I'm running next season. I'll probably do Spec Racer Ford, but I might do the touring cars. I might do the W12 series, the F1 car. Other than that, I'm really not sure what I'm going to do. The whole point and my biggest thing is to make sure I'm having fun, and if I'm not having fun, I need to do something different. But clearly, based on today, I should probably try to get in the Formula V more, because just how much fun it was.
Absolutely. So a lot of fun for that. But before we let you go here, Dan, shout out sponsors, anyone you'd like to thank.
Nobody to thank really except for Steve, who put this together. Thank you, Steve. We couldn't do it without you, and I know firsthand just how much effort it takes to make these V run-ups happen. So thank you again, Steve.
Well, there you have it. Dan Sadro picking up third place finish there over the course of the action that we had. Justin, I believe you've had a little look down pit lane. Who have you found?
Yes, indeed. How about the chance to speak with the main people who has been in charge of running the action today? Stevie Ray is standing by. Stevie, first things first. Absolute exciting action all throughout both the races today. How was it from your vantage point for the V runoffs this time around?
Hey guys, that was a lot of fun. From my point, there's some good racing, especially in the V's. We had a lot of fun back there where I was. I couldn't tell what was going on up front, and likewise here. The Spec Ford, my race lacked a little bit to be desired. I think me and a couple of other guys were having a contest to see who could spin the most, but it was a lot of fun. I'm anxious to watch the broadcast and tried to stress to everybody going out, this one's just for fun, guys. Let's just race it out and have a lot of fun and put on a show. So hopefully that's what we did.
So if this running, the 31st running of the V runoffs, had an addition with the Formula Vs, what came into the discussion to say, let's add this car on top of the SRF race to this event with its tradition?
Well, this season before last, when the Formula Vs came out, we figured it was a perfect addition to the Weekend Warriors League. So we created a separate parallel Formula V Weekend Warriors League to offset our Spec Ford guys. And it just kind of made sense. The Weekend Warriors typically put on and host this V runoffs every season, and thought, well, we'll just make it a double header and bring them all in.
It definitely looked like a lot of fun. What's the work looking like for the next seasons for Weekend Warriors action, as well as for the future of the V runoffs?
The V runoffs plan to stay put. I think myself as Ray Esports are looking forward to hosting it, and we'll do the same thing next season, I think. The Formula Vs, we'll have a season. We're still looking for a sponsor for them for the broadcast. The Spec Ford guys are already set for their next season. Both leagues, we've got a little minor tweaks with points and a couple of other things, but nothing big. So looking forward to another good big season.
Who do you want to thank for being a part of this event for the 31st running?
Just all the guys on track that come out for these. I've said it before, I can set these up day after day and season after season, but it's the guys on track, the members of the Weekend Warriors, the guys that join to see what it's like for the V runoffs. Those are the guys that make this thing what it is. And thank you guys for a great broadcast as always. You guys always do a good job.
Thank you very much, Steve, for the time.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Stevie Ray coming away with a solid run and a solid running of this event. One more driver is standing by, it's worth noting. Chris Murakami had an eventful one, Jake. You're standing by with him to get his take on what was a thrilling fight in the SRFs.
Well, Chris started fifth, finished seventh. Doesn't really tell the whole story of the race. It was up, down, all around, and incredible battling all throughout the middle of that pack. So talk us through just how intensive that race was for you.
Oh, it was a lot of fun. There's me and Bobby kind of were grouped together, and most of my race consisted of me and him, and so yeah, that was very good, a lot of fun.
How difficult is it in terms of when you're racing to go out there and battle hard? Know you got someone with World Championship quality behind you in Kane Halliburton trying to make a maraud through the field.
Oh, when you see him coming up, you know he's faster than you, and so whenever he gets a little bite more than you do, you just give him the room, and you try to tuck in up underneath him and try to carry his draft as far as you can.
And in terms of a race, it was very hectic from start to finish. It spread out a little bit for you in the end, but P7 in the end. How do you translate this into, say, the SRF series moving forward in towards a new season?
Oh, yeah. With the series, I've been averaging around 9th, I think, and so 7th is good. Yeah, if I can move up a little bit, I got a few tips from Yang Chi Lin this week, and helped at least probably a third of a second off my corner. So hopefully I could apply that.
Absolutely, a battle of tenths and a battle of hundreds. So, Chris, before we let you go, shout out sponsors, anyone you'd like to thank.
Well, Young Sheep for giving me the few tips, and everybody on board, you guys and Steve and all the drivers, and I had a tough year last year or this past year with both my parents, and so I want to give them a shout out, and my girlfriend.
No worries at all. Chris Murakami, 7th position overall, getting a pretty solid finish then for his standards. Justin.
Yes, indeed, and it was a lot of exciting action for both the races, in fact. Lots of dramatic moments, lots of times where a lot changed, let's put it that way, in multiple different factors of packs. Your final thoughts on this running, the V Runoffs?
It's a fantastic series, and, you find out a lot about a series by the way that the racing goes along. And we saw how in the Formula V's it was very intensive, aggressive styles of racing, but very clean. When you saw how it was going in the SRFs, it was a little bit more different. It was a case of you had some quick drivers breaking away, but no guarantees on what the result could be. I think two different styles of racing produced two very, very good races here at Mid-Ohio, which has a tendency as a circuit to be very hit or miss. Two very good hits, and I can't wait to see what they will do over the brand new season.
Yes, indeed, especially with lots of action coming up for those respective drivers. But we'd like to thank you for tuning into today's action from Mid-Ohio. We'd also like to take the time to thank the companies who provide the software and hardware for our broadcast, listed on screen, with additional thanks to Jude Luan, who provides her wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today in Jake Sperry, Robert O'Brien, and Dougie Beard. You can find out more info about GSRC at the Global SimRacing Channel or through our social media listed on screen. Also, check out the merchandise store at simracingmerch.com/GSRC. Keep a link in the YouTube description below. Don't forget to subscribe to said channel, as well as hit the notification bell so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. Don't go anywhere, because the next broadcast is coming up in less than 10 minutes. The Big C's MX-5 Challenge gets their turn on the racetrack as they go to Circuit of Spa-Francorchamps. That coverage starts 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Michael W. Johnson will be alongside me in the booth for that action with Ryan Bauer producing. We also have upcoming races for other series currently listed on your screen, so be sure to check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.